a mass grave of hundreds of children here in Canada. This is horrifying in a way that almost beggars words. A BC First Nation in Kamloops has found the remains of 215 children, some of them as young as 3 years old. They attended a residential school there, the Kamloops Indian Residential School. It ran from 1890 to 1969. By the way, it wasn't ended there. Then it ran under the supervision of the federal government until 1978. The chief of the First Nation, Roseanne Casimir, said these deaths are, quote, undocumented. In other words, their families never knew about it. They haven't been, quote, counted. The 2015 Truth and Reconciliation Commission did document the death of over 3,200 children who died at residential schools. Some of them fled. The Minister of Indigenous Services, Mark Miller, tweeted out about this, calling it absolutely heartbreaking news, saying he spoke to the chief this evening to offer full support to the Indigenous Services of Canada as the community and the surrounding communities honor and mourn the loss of these children. But who knew about this kind of thing? For how long? How many more mass graves of Indigenous children might there be? I want to get reaction to this horrifying story from the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, Perry Bellegarde. National Chief, I almost don't, we knew they were out there. We knew from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that there were these graves, unmarked graves, but 215 children undocumented in a mass grave. What is your reaction when you found out about this?
Oh, you feel it's such a painful and tragic discovery. And it's sad, but it's not uncommon for residential schools for these graveyards or these hidden grave sites to be there. So it's very painful, and it's undocumented. I've said before that the residential schools was a genocide of our people. Here's just another glowing example of that genocide in practice. Undocumented deaths of children. It's total travesty.
I want to focus on that because you said we've known about these unmarked graves. To be candid, I had no idea that there could be this many children. We don't know who these children are yet, but how many other mass graves might there be around residential schools? And what does that tell us about there could be untold numbers of children who were killed that we don't even know about?
Evan, there's from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's work, the former commissioners identified this as a huge issue that still needs more research and investigation. You need ground sonar properly at all the 130 plus sites where these residential schools operated. And there's got to be a lot of work done now, because how can you bring about closure? How can you deal with this pain, this sense of loss, without even knowing that your loved one they'll use the excuse, oh, they ran away. Or they have no documentation of these children that have ran away, but they've experienced death and hurt and pain, and it's right across the residential school system. So there's a lot more research that has to be done.
But maybe they didn't run away.
Really get to the bottom of this.
But this is the one thing. Maybe they didn't run away. Maybe they died and they were buried in these mass graves and they destroyed their records. How do we know?
Exactly, Evan. Like the residential schools, there's a lot of starvation. There's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of abuse, physical, mental, sexual abuse. So you're never going to know. But again, the research has to start. In this one case, there's 215 bodies found. And so there has to be ceremony. There's got to be protocol. There's got to be proper things done in a good way so that there is some closure for the chief and council, the people at Kamloops, Chief Casimir, but as well, again, where are their relatives? There's so much work now that has to get done to bring about closure and moving on and embracing reconciliation. People keep talking about that, but look at what's going on here.
National Chief, when will we identify who these children are? When will their families know that their remains have been found? And when will there be accountability for the people who ran this school? I hesitate to use that word because it's a total distortion of what that word actually means, for some accountability.
No, there's so much, again, with the discovery and the sad, tragic discovery of these 215 bodies, there's so much things now that are going to be turned up, in terms of the proper research, the evidence, the DNA. You're not going to know, like, there's death, no question, but how did they die? You know, why are they put in the mask? Like, there's so many questions that have to be answered. And then once you start getting all the information, then of course the appropriate families, they've got to be contacted. Then there's grief, there's loss, there's counseling, there's mental health issues. All of these things are going to have to be looked after. Remember, this is just one residential school site. There's talk, and our elders have always talked about this being an issue in all the residential schools, about young people dying and just not being documented and just kind of put to the side. What a total disregard of life. What a total disregard of humanity. And this is something that really stirs your emotions. And if people really want to embrace reconciliation, we got to look at the shared history and how do we move together and work together to build a better country, move travesty and hurt and pain. It's difficult times going forward.
I want to ask you finally what you think the federal government has to do. I know everyone's going to have words of sorrow, and I think many communities have heard a lot of words and not a lot of action, as you've talked about a lot. Does there need to be a special fund to now, as you said, to now do sonar and to get technology on 130 different residential school sites and figure out what the hell's going on, how many of these there could be?
This is still unfinished work from the TRC for follow-up. This work needs to get done. And then, of course, the appropriate ceremonies and protocol, the elders to be brought in, all the research done, families need to be notified. So this is, again, a lot more work. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and the federal government does have a responsibility to make sure that these resources are in place to get the answers and get the work done.
National Chief Perry Bellegarde, it is one of the more sorrowful pieces of evidence we've ever seen in this country. Mass grave of 215 Indigenous children in Kamloops. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thanks for the opportunity, Evan.
All right, coming up on this program.